In the 1960s, some European automobiles cost as much as a mansion, a small hotel, or several luxury cars combined. They were not created to fill dealerships. Many were built almost entirely by hand, in minimal quantities, and for clients capable of requesting an exclusive color, a personalized interior, or even a body that no one else would have. Behind their steering wheels appeared kings, businessmen, movie stars, and people who were not simply looking for a means of transportation. They wanted to arrive at a hotel in Paris, stop in front of a casino in Monte Carlo, or travel along the Italian coast in something that made it clear, even before the door was opened, that they belonged to a different world. Subscribe to the channel and join us as we discover the 10 most expensive and exclusive European automobiles of that decade. 1964. Ferrari 500 Superfast. At the 1964 Geneva Motor Show, Ferrari did not need to place a large sign beside its new creation. Those who could afford it already knew it was there. The Superfast was not designed for drivers who dreamed of victory on a racetrack, but for people who considered a conventional luxury automobile insufficient. It was Maranello's answer for a client capable of buying a Rolls-Royce, but who wanted something much rarer and more personal. Pininfarina gave it a long and clean body, dominated by an endless hood and a very low oval grille. The pillars were thin, the rear window descended toward a truncated tail, and the bumpers did not interrupt the silhouette. Its taillights, with 3 circular lenses on each side, were exclusive to the model. Inside, leather, clear instruments, and an elegant console created the atmosphere of a grand tourer built for crossing Europe as a couple. Many buyers chose particular colors and finishes because at this level, the automobile was not supposed to resemble the next owners. Its name was not an empty promise. The 5-liter VI-12 produced around 400 horsepower, an extraordinary figure for the time. But its purpose was not to attack every corner, but to travel at high speed for hours, carrying its occupants from Paris to the Riviera with a tranquility that few sports cars could offer. Ferrari produced only 36 units between 1964 and 1966. When new, it could cost more than $15,000, and some specially configured examples approached $20,000, approximately the price of 2 Rolls-Royces. Today, a Ferrari 500 Superfast is usually valued between $1.4 million and $2 million, depending on its provenance, originality, and condition. 1963. Bentley S3 Continental Flying Spur. In 1963, a person could arrive at an important reception in an automobile filled with chrome and striking colors. Or they could appear in a Bentley like this one, hand the keys to the attendant, and let only those who truly understood automobiles realize what had just arrived. It represented a much more reserved form of wealth. It shared the dignity of the great Bentleys of the era, but its body was lower, more streamlined, and lighter. It did not look like a limousine created only to occupy space in front of a hotel, but like an elegant 4-door grand tourer. Its design was created by H.J. Mulliner, one of Britain's most respected coach builders. The aluminum panels were shaped almost entirely by hand and mounted on the Continental chassis, creating an automobile far more exclusive than the conventional Bentley S3. The front retained the large vertical grille and winged emblem, accompanied by 4 slightly angled headlights. From there, the body became surprisingly delicate. A clean belt line, large glass surfaces, and a rear section that descended gently, without unnecessary ornamentation. When one of its doors was opened, the atmosphere changed completely. Polished wood, thick leather, deep carpets, and small folding tables transformed the interior into a private room. There was enough space to travel comfortably with other passengers, but anyone who chose to drive it would not feel like the chauffeur of their own automobile. Its 6.2-liter V8 allowed it to cover long distances with almost silent smoothness. However, its true distinction was not in accelerating violently, but in maintaining a high pace for hours while the European landscape disappeared behind its thin pillars. Only 87 S3 Continental Flying Spurs were built with this body, of which just 16 left the factory with left-hand drive. Its British price, close to £7,860, was equivalent to almost 3 average homes in the United Kingdom. By comparison, a Jaguar E-Type costs less than £2,000. Today, a well-preserved example is usually valued at approximately $170,000 to $250,000. 1960, Aston Martin DB4 GT Zagato. An Aston Martin left England with elegant lines and a British identity, but when it arrived at a workshop in Milan, its panels began to disappear. The body became lighter, the curves tighter, and the automobile returned, transformed into something Aston Martin would never have created on its own. The Zagato was presented at the 1960 London Motor Show as the result of a collaboration between British engineering and Italian sensitivity. Zagato took the already exclusive DB4 GT and replaced its body with a hand-shaped aluminum structure. The man responsible for those forms was Ercole Spada, a designer who was only 23 years old. Instead of preserving the serious image of the traditional DB4, he rounded the front, softened the roof, and created a compact rear section. Each surface seemed to continue into the next, without large amounts of chrome or elements interrupting its silhouette. Around 110 pounds were also removed, and the six-cylinder engine received special preparation. In this case, performance was indeed part of the story. The Zagato was born to challenge Ferrari on the racetrack. However, it still retained leather, classic instruments, and enough refinement to arrive by road at the same event in which it would compete. Aston Martin planned to build 25 units, but its price was so high that it found buyers for only 19. It cost around £5,157 with taxes, more than twice the price of a Jaguar E-Type, and an amount with which it was still possible to purchase a good British house. That lack of buyers ultimately became its greatest virtue. Decades later, those 19 automobiles are among the most desirable Aston Martins in history. One example sold for $14.3 million in 2015, while an especially important competition car exceeded $13 million in 2018. Here, beauty was not born from adding luxury, but from removing weight, ornamentation, and formality, until only the essentials remained. Would you prefer the discretion of the previous Bentley Flying Spur, or the Italian lines and rarity of this Aston Martin? Leave your answer in the comments. 1962, Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Roadster. Even while stopped in front of a hotel, the 300 SL seemed to be moving. The long hood, raised fenders, and small cabin positioned almost over the rear axle formed a silhouette that still looked modern 8 years after the appearance of the first gullwing. But by 1962, the SL no longer had its famous gullwing doors. Mercedes-Benz had transformed the coupe into a more comfortable and refined roadster. To install conventional doors, the engineers modified the sides of its complex tubular chassis, also reducing the height required to enter. The result preserved the identity of the original model, but was far more appropriate for driving elegantly along an avenue in Cannes than for performing an awkward maneuver in front of a crowd. With the roof folded, its design became cleaner. The horizontal grille with the enormous star dominated the front, while two delicate lines ran along the sides toward a rounded and surprisingly simple rear section. It did not need exaggerated fins or large amounts of chrome to be recognized. The interior did not try to resemble a limousine either. There was leather, full instrumentation, and materials of excellent quality, but everything remained organized around the driver. It was luxurious without hiding the fact that beneath that body was a machine born from competition. For that reason, in this case, its mechanical components deserve attention. The 3-liter 6-cylinder engine used direct injection and produced 215 horsepower. From 1961, the Roadster received disc brakes on all 4 wheels, and in March 1962, it began using an aluminum engine block. Depending on the final drive ratio selected, it could reach up to 155 miles per hour, an extraordinary figure for an open automobile of its time. Mercedes-Benz produced 1,858 Roadsters between 1957 and February 1963. Although it was more numerous than several automobiles on this list, its price kept it far beyond the reach of the general public. It cost 32,500 German marks, almost twice the price of a Mercedes 190 SL. Today, a 1962 example in good condition is usually worth between $1.3 million and $2 million. The best examples, especially those with original colors, a complete history, and their factory hardtop can exceed $2.2 million. 1962, Maserati 5000 GT. The story of this automobile began when one of the most powerful men in the world tested a Maserati 3500 GT and decided that it still was not enough. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Persia and a passionate collector, wanted to preserve the elegance of the Italian Grand Tourer, but with a presence, power, and exclusivity that no ordinary customer could request at a dealership. Maserati accepted the challenge, although it soon realized that modifying an existing model would not be enough. Engineer Giulio Alfieri reinforced the chassis of the 3500 GT and installed an adapted version of the VAI-8 used by the Maserati 450S racing car. Carrozzeria Touring built the first body, presented in Turin in 1959 and immediately known as the Shah's Maserati. However, the 5000 GT was not limited to that first royal order. Maserati allowed some of the most important Italian coach builders to interpret the same automobile in their own way. Touring, Pininfarina, Ghia, Bertone, Frua, Vignale, Monterosa, and Alemanno created different versions. Some had dual headlights, others more discreet grilles, different roofs, or interiors designed around the preferences of a single owner. The 1962 examples were built mainly by Alemanno. Their design was more restrained than that of the Shah's automobile, with a low front end, 4 headlights, and a wide rectangular grille. The long hood ended in front of a bright cabin, while the rear descended cleanly without trying to look like an aggressive sports car. Inside, there was Connolly leather, full instrumentation, wood, and room for 4 occupants. Some customers added air conditioning, special sound systems, and color combinations that would never be repeated. Its nearly 5-liter V8 produced approximately 340 horsepower and allowed it to approach 168 miles per hour. Only 34 units were built. Depending on the body and configuration, its price could range from $15,000 to more than $20,000, approximately twice the price of a 3500 GT. Today, a 5000 GT is usually valued between $600,000 and $900,000, although its condition, bodywork, and the identity of its first owner can profoundly change that figure. 1962, Ferrari 250 GTO. Most of the expensive automobiles on this list were created to arrive at hotels, palaces, or grand avenues. The 250, by contrast, could appear covered in dust, with numbers on its doors and the smell of its brakes still lingering. Its prestige did not begin in an elegant showroom, but by crossing finish lines. Ferrari introduced it in 1962 to compete in the new International Grand Touring category. The letter O stood for omologata, although the company never produced the 100 units normally required. Enzo Ferrari declared it an evolution of the existing 250 GT, and only 36 examples were built with the 3-liter engine. Its shape was not born as a simple styling exercise either. Giotto Bizzarini developed the aerodynamics through testing in the University of Pisa wind tunnel and at Monza. Later, Mauro Forghieri continued the project, and Sergio Scaglietti finished the aluminum body directly over the chassis, adjusting its curves with almost no definitive drawings. Inside, there was no polished wood or thick carpeting, only instruments, lightweight seats, and a metal gear lever set within an open gate. Its 3-liter VI-12 produced around 300 horsepower. Here, the mechanical components deserved the spotlight, because the GTO was a genuine road-legal racing car. In its first major appearance, it finished second overall in the 12 Hours of Sebring, and first among the GT cars. It later helped Ferrari win 3 consecutive international championships between 1962 and 1964. When new, it cost around $18,000 in the United States, and having the money was not enough. Ferrari reserved it for trusted drivers and customers. In 2018, one example was auctioned for $48.4 million. In 2023, the special 330 LM, converted to 250 GTO specification, reached $51.7 million. 1966 Lamborghini Miura P400. This car seemed to have arrived from a future decade. It stood barely 3.6 feet tall, Its front end descended almost to the ground, the headlights were surrounded by those famous black eyelashes, and the windshield blended into a cabin, positioned much farther forward than usual. Behind it, metal louvers covered the engine and allowed heat to escape, turning a technical necessity into one of its most recognizable details. The design belonged to Bertone and was developed by Marcello Gandini, who was only 27 years old. Instead of drawing a sports car around a long front hood, he created a silhouette in which the cabin, the wheels, and the engine seemed to form a single piece. That body concealed an idea developed almost in secret by a young team of engineers. They wanted to place the engine behind the passengers, although Ferruccio Lamborghini preferred to build comfortable Grand Tourers and distrusted automobiles that were too closely related to racing. The result was a 4-liter V12 mounted transversely behind the seats. It produced 350 horsepower and could take the Miura to approximately 174 miles per hour. Its initial price was approximately 8.6 million Italian lire, close to $20,000 in some markets. It was enough money to buy several respected sports cars of the era. Despite this, the orders surprised both Ferruccio Lamborghini and Nuccio Bertone, and 265 units of the original P400 were built between 1966 and 1968. Today, a well-documented Miura P400 is usually worth between $1.7 million and $2.5 million. The previous Ferrari 250 GTO built its legend by winning races. The Miura did something different. It changed what an extraordinary automobile was supposed to look like. Which one would you choose? The racing history of the Ferrari 250 GTO or the revolutionary design of the Lamborghini Miura? Leave your answer in the comments. 1962 Facel Vega Facel II. The most surprising detail of the Facel II was directly in front of its driver. That elaborate dashboard, apparently covered in expensive polished wood, was actually a hand-painted piece of steel. The craftsman reproduced the grain with such precision that even up close it was difficult to discover the illusion. That combination of appearance, craftsmanship, and ingenuity perfectly summarized Facel Vega. Jean Daninos wanted to restore France's prestige in building the great automobiles once created before the war, by brands such as Delahaye, Delage, and Talbot Lago. The Facel II, presented at the 1961 Paris Motor Show and marketed from 1962, was the most refined expression of that dream. Its body was long, low, and surprisingly slender. The roof seemed to rest on almost invisible pillars, surrounded by large windows and delicate stainless steel trim. At the front, the vertically positioned Marshall headlights gave the automobile a completely different expression from any Ferrari, Bentley, or Mercedes of the era. Inside, 4 people could travel surrounded by leather, circular instruments, and small details made with almost handcrafted attention. It was not an uncomfortable sports car disguised as an elegant automobile. It had room for luggage and enough comfort to cross France, stop for dinner in Lyon, and continue toward the coast the following day. Its price in the United Kingdom reached approximately £5,570 when the average annual salary barely approached £800. It cost much more than an Aston Martin DB4 and almost 3 times the price of a Jaguar E-Type. That ambition also revealed Facel Vega's problem. Its automobiles were beautiful, fast, and exclusive, but they were built in minimal quantities and were extremely expensive. Only 183 examples of the Facel, 2 left the factory before it closed in 1964. Today, preserved examples are usually valued at approximately $150,000 to $250,000. In January 2026, an original 1962 example sold in Paris for €143,750, while the best restored automobiles can reach considerably higher figures. 1963, Mercedes-Benz 600 Pullman. When a Pullman stopped in front of a palace, there was no need to ask who was traveling inside. Its length of more than 20 feet, the rear curtains, and the discreet star on the hood announced that this automobile was reserved for people accustomed to being awaited. Mercedes-Benz introduced it in Frankfurt in 1963 as its new Grand Mercedes. It was not intended to compete with the sports cars of the era, but to become a private office and a declaration of power on wheels. The Pullman version used a wheelbase of 12.8 feet and could accommodate up to 8 people. In the four-door version, the rear passengers traveled facing one another, separated from the driver by a partition. Wood, leather, and personalized details ensured that almost no two examples were identical. Its most impressive luxury remained hidden. A hydraulic system operated the seats, windows, sunroof, doors, and even the trunk lid with almost silent smoothness. The air suspension kept the body level, even with every seat occupied. The 6.3-liter VI-8 produced 250 horsepower and could carry its 5,864 pounds to 127 miles per hour. It was not a slow limousine. It had been designed to transport heads of state quickly and comfortably. It appeared in parades, airports, and hotels around the world, accompanied by chauffeurs, bodyguards, and photographers. Its owners included monarchs, presidents, and celebrities. In 1964, its official price was 63,500 German marks, enough to buy several luxury automobiles. Mercedes-Benz built 429 Pullmans, including special versions, until 1981. Today, a Pullman limousine is usually valued between $120,000 and $250,000, depending on its condition and history. Examples with famous owners or Landaulet bodywork can be worth much more. 1966 Ferrari 365 California. With the roof folded and a coastal road ahead, the 365 California showed a very different side of Ferrari from the one seen on racetracks. It did not need numbers on its doors or an aggressive body. Its purpose was to travel elegantly in one of Maranello's most exclusive automobiles. Presented at the 1966 Geneva Motor Show, it was the open successor to the Ferrari 500 Superfast, with which we began this list. Pininfarina retained the long hood, the small oval grille, and the rearward positioned cabin, but added its own distinctive details. The main headlights remained covered, while two retractable auxiliary lights appeared in the center of the front end. Along the sides, a triangular indentation ran across the doors and concealed the handles within a chrome molding, a feature that would later influence other Pininfarina Ferraris. Inside, there was leather, power windows, power steering, and a dashboard filled with instruments. It was easy to imagine it leaving Rome in the morning and arriving on the French Riviera before dinner, with two small suitcases and the sound of the VI-12 accompanying the journey. Its 4.4-liter engine produced 320 horsepower. Power mattered, although it did not define its character. The 365 California was not created to compete, but to combine the speed of a Ferrari with the comfort of a grand convertible reserved for special clients. Only 14 units were built between 1966 and early 1967, 2 with right-hand drive. When new, it cost around $21,000, a figure higher than that of many luxury automobiles of the era. Today, its value can range approximately between $2.7 million and $4 million, depending on its originality and history. In the 1960s, Europe proved that an automobile could be much more than an expensive machine. Each one understood exclusivity in a different way. Some impressed through their price, others through their rarity, and a few became so valuable that today they seem to belong more in a museum than on a road. Now, we want to know your choice. If you could keep only one of these 10 automobiles in your garage, which one would you choose? The elegance of the Ferrari 365 California, the presence of the Mercedes 600 Pullman, or the incomparable history of the 250 GTO? Leave your answer in the comments. And if you want to discover how this era of luxury and exclusivity began, continue with our video about the most expensive European automobiles of the 1950s. There, you will find some of the models that paved the way for all the legends we have just discovered.